able. First, I want to introduce those who are unable to attend on today. Dr. Vanessa Lovelace published an article in the ITC Journal. You will see the title of that to my left on the smart board. She had to be in Chicago with her family. And then Dr. Lisa Allen McLaurin, who published the book, was also unable to be here as she is attending a conference in Dallas, Texas. As we continue, even in the spirit of our community concerns, I'm so glad to see Dr. Edward Wimberly here on today. He just returned from the funeral of his dear cousin. They were very close friends and grew up together. And so, Dr. Wimberly, thank you so much for pressing your way back here, and know that we're lifting you up and you are in our prayers. And then, of course, we remember, as I affectionately call her, Miss Sheila, who worked so diligently here in our community and maintenance, and lost her dear sister, who will be funeralized on tomorrow. So let's continue to lift up persons who are bereaved in our community. At this time, we want to bring our authors up to share their phenomenal works. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves and their own publications, so I will just share their names so we can move on into their presentations. Would like to invite Dr. Mark Ellenson to the podium, professor of church history. Certainly he's a prolific author from what I understand. He will be sharing with us today his 19th book, is that correct? Yes. All right, so please welcome Dr. Ellenson to come. Yes, yes. Dr. Lynn Darden, who is assistant professor of New Testament, also published a book. Welcome, Dr. Darden. Dr. Timba Mafiko, distinguished professor of Hebrew Bible, also working as a distinguished professor for our Doctor of Ministry program, published as well in the Journal of the ITC. Welcome, Dr. Mafiko. Dr. Marcia Snulligan Haney, professor of missiology and director of our Doctor of Ministry program, will share publications, several of them with us. Welcome. Dr. Edward Wimberly, who I already spoke about, prolific author and special assistant to President Wheeler. Welcome, Dr. Wimberly. And last but certainly not least, and I'm going to talk about her in more detail in just a minute, we want to welcome Reverend Portia Lee, who is the Dean of the Richardson Ecumenical Fellowship, to come and to share about her book. Please welcome Reverend Lee. We have a lovely PowerPoint slide that was prepared by my wonderful assistant, Ms. Megan Walker. I don't know if we need to go in that order or not. I know Dr. Lisa Allen McLaurin is there on the screen, but why don't we just go ahead and proceed in the order that is on the screen, and then before Reverend Lee comes, I would like to come back up and just to say a little bit more about that. So again, can we please welcome our distinguished faculty and our dean. Thank you.
I'm not sure if are you going to stay seated or are you going to do it at the podium? All right.
Well, the camera stays seated.
What? Stay seated? Stay seated. Great. Well, I want to thank you. Am I loud enough here? Okay, I want to thank you, Dr. Handy, for setting this up and all the work you did, and thanks for coming. Now, I'm supposed to talk about two things, right? The articles and the book. So I'll start first with something that's for free. You can get it for free. My column is free. Every week at Lectionary Scripture Notes, www.lectionaryscripturenotes.com. Every week it's free. What's there? Every week I exegete 4 biblical passages, a psalm, another from the Hebrew Bible, another from the Epistle, and one from the Gospels. I exegete them with all the tools you learn here at ITC, all the historical critical tools. But I don't just leave you there. I also close the loop with ideas for how to use it in a sermon. Now, these biblical readings come from the lectionary. Now, most of you know what that is, what the lectionary is, these texts that are assigned for the church. But if you're Baptist, If you're Pentecostal, if you're non-denominational, you can still use the stuff I've got there. Because what you do is you go to the column and you look at the archives and you see if maybe I've already dealt with the text you're going to deal with that Sunday. Now this column, they pay me for it, even though it's free, is sponsored by CSS Publishers. That's the publisher who did 3 of my books called Lectionary Preaching Workbook, Sermon Helps. The publisher offers the column free to all in hopes that then you will look at the advertising they have there and buy one of their books. So that's how come they pay me to give something free. What's in it for you? Now again, this distinguished audience doesn't need it in the whole, but for students at least, for parish pastors, every week I go over the reasons the Bible passage is considered and the book that it's in, why they were written. Then I study the text genre, provide a word study of the key words. I write out the Greek and the Hebrew and the English alphabet so the ordinary parish pastor can understand what's going on. All the stuff you do in Area 1 here at ITC. But then I don't just leave you in the first century. Africa, I highlight African roots of texts, like the Egyptian roots of wisdom psalms. But I won't just leave you there. I'll give you hints of what to do with every text. A sample of that column in hard copy is out there at the signing table, but you don't take it with you. Just look it up yourself. www.lectionaryscripturenotes.com. And because it's free, you know, this is the biggest audience I've ever had for my writing, so it's really a really neat experience. Now, you won't get sermons out of it. What you have to do there is another column I write that we don't have up there. I also write a column along with some other writers that CSS asks us to give illustrations for sermons on those texts. And a lot of my examples are about politics and justice. I get the freshest poll data. I do an analysis of current events theologically. And so, of course, you got to subscribe to that. You don't get that one free, but if you want to make the move from the actual directions I give in the free column to get some ideas to how to incarnate it, that's where you go. Okay, that one's called www.sermonsuite.com, but the freebie, www.lectionaryscripturenotes.com. Okay, columns. Hey, I'm writing 2 columns a week besides all the stuff we do here at ITC, huh? Okay, now for the book. That's almost free. It's only $28, and that's cheap by standards of academic books, right? Doesn't the title tell you why this matters here at ITC? African Christian Mothers and Fathers. Why they matter for the church today. But before I tell you about it, I want to tell you why I wrote it. See, there's this new organization called the Center for Early African Christianity, but it was started by whites at Drew University. Now they do have some African theologians in there, but we haven't linked up with that. And I've been wondering when we get through this, is this something the administration wants to look into in terms of our getting involved in that organization? They're publishing some books. Well, anyway, I write about that organization in here, but then I'm going to read to you the preface because I want you to know why I wrote it. Long before this organization began, segments of African American and African churches have been aware of the importance of studying ancient African Christian thought. Am I right?
Yes.
Thus, it's not surprising that a book like this one, written by a son of Norwegian immigrants, has its origins in my teaching assignment at the largest and oldest, we are the oldest if you count Morehouse, right? The largest and oldest accredited, hear that, accredited seminary, African American seminary, right here. Given the rich resources that surround me in my setting, and the historic black denominations that support the seminary I serve, it's not surprising that I have many debts to offer in making this book happen. Nearly everyone associated with my intellectual home the last 20 years, administrators, faculty colleagues, students, has had a hand in this book's development. So give yourself a hand. You made this book happen. And then I go on to talk about Betsy and how special she is. You know, I always say I can produce as much as I do because I live with my editor and a good theologian too, so I'm cheering her in my heart. Then there's another one I want to thank. This book would not have developed without Brad Aust of my seminary's Woodruff Library. for he did yeoman work in locating some obscure texts. In all my years in the academy, in several quality institutions, I've never worked with a more competent and assiduous librarian than Brad Aust. Brad, stand up. Don't you agree with me? Who's better? Have you had a better librarian here? I haven't seen him. But this book is dedicated, but Betsy and I said we both felt this one should be dedicated to the former dean of Johnson C. Smith Seminary at the ITC. A valued colleague in the classroom. We taught together for more than a decade, and a dear, much appreciated friend, David Wallace. Dave, I'm going to ask you and Iris to stand up in a minute too, in case folks don't know. Dave and I come from different parts of the country with different ethnic roots, life experiences, and denominational backgrounds, but that hasn't gotten in the way of the way things have been between us. It just made the friendship better. We clicked almost immediately when we first met over 20 years ago. I think Jim Costin was the matchmaker. How about it, David? But then I also want to thank his wife, Iris, who you see every year we used to get together when he'd have the Johnson C. Smith students over there, and she'd give a speech. And you know what she'd say basically? Correct me if I'm wrong. She'd talk about, now don't listen to all those rumors about those hard professors, because you learn sometimes from hard professors. I wonder who she was talking about. True friend, most of the time my friendship with David has just been great, just a good collegial working relationship. But true friendship is also measured by sticking together in some tough times, and we've done that for each other too. So that's why this book is just a way for me to say thank you to my friend Dave and his wife, a true friend of mine. Get up and let's get a hand for them. That's why they're here. I wanted to brag about them. You know, in Norwegian culture, the best thing you can do is brag about a friend. Okay, now, what about this book? What's in the book? Well, you already know, in a way. And a few veterans of my courses in Church History 1 have heard some of this stuff. After all, I write about North Africa, about Clement of Alexandria, about Tertullian and Athanasius, but in a lot more detail. See, students sometimes say, and I hear colleagues say, Ellingson, you don't need to teach all this stuff in Church History 1. It's too much. But now, this book shows it's a lie, because you'll see how much I leave out of Church History 1, how many theologians I don't cover, because this book will show you all the ones we don't get around to in Church History 1. What are some of the new things that are in this book? You know, there's some theologians here that nobody ever talks about, that I never heard of, that nobody ever pays attention to, and they're African. Okay, I'm talking about people, tell me if you ever heard of them, but they're African. Commodianus, Anatolius of Alexandria, Lactantius, Caius Maximus Victorinus, Synesius of Cyrene, Octatus, we never talk about them. The Guild doesn't talk about them, but they're African and they're in here in this book. And how about some women? Theodora, Eupraxia, Mary the Egyptian. I'm just scratching the surface now. You'll find all about them there. Again, now we all know not everybody in ancient North Africa was black, right? But what I do in this class is look for the hard evidence to try to show which in this group is black. And some of them we've got hard evidence. And that's why, take that, critics of Afrocentrism. We're going to put them down a little bit in this book. Why does knowing African roots matter? Now I know I'm preaching the choir when I say that, but let me just tell you some folks who say it matters. I've got a book review here in the back of the book from a colleague at Hood Seminary, Michael Turner. I've got some words from a colleague, Hélène Paleogoulou, who is a professor at the University of Johannesburg. How's that for some recommendations? And you know, one of the things that's been beautiful for me is this isn't the first book that's been noticed of mine in Africa. One of my books, The Integrity of Biblical Narrative, you know, is being used in preaching seminars among the Zulu tribe. There was this one professor, this one student who wrote a master's thesis about that book. And another one of my books, Cutting Edge, is translated in Arabic, you know, in Egypt. Okay, what's in this book, though? For just $28, you can find out what these theologians nobody ever heard of has said. I want to tell you what some of the mothers have said. You can find here some female theologians, some like Sarah, who says, don't worry what others think of you. because you're free to care for others. Another mother of the desert, Theodora, says, don't be a fool about getting flattered. Don't let flattery go to your head. Good advice for living today? Are these just ancient theologians with no relevance for the church today? I don't think so. And then there's two theologians I really like, but before I get to them, another neat thing I'm finding. Do you know almost all the African theologians of this period had something to say about poverty? Had a concern for poverty, for structural poverty? Hey, this is the black church, huh? So you want to find out if these ancient theologians are any good today? Maybe you can find the roots of liberation theology in some of them. Read this book and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I'm just going to close. I'm just giving you little bitty things here about two of my favorites. Dionysius of Alexandria. He was a student of Origen, and he says things that sound like modern science, that sound like the Big Bang Theory and string theory. Because here's what he says. He says, God is energy. Well, these scientific disciplines say energy is what caused the cosmos. Energy is what holds it together. That's what string theory says. Don't you see? This Dionysius is saying something that presupposes a lot in modern science. Ancient Africa, the seedbed of modern science, huh? And then another one I just love, Optatus. Optatus is somebody we never heard of except Augustine. Augustine loved him. Augustine said, now, by the way, I wrote a book about Augustine before, that's why he's not in this book. I'm doing the ones before him. But Optatus didn't like this heresy called the Donatists. I'm coming to an end now. He didn't like this heresy called the Donatists. You know why? Because of the way they treated women. Do you like Optatus? Is he a male womanist? And then I like him too, because he said we're saved by grace, just like Augustine. Why does it matter? Why does appreciating the black origins in Africa of Christianity matter? Why does it matter that Christianity isn't a white thing? It's a way of undercutting paternalism in global society, a way of undercutting perennialism. Black lives matter in Christian theology. Of course, there's another plus for the Church Catholic. Reading these theologians is a good remedy for postmodernism. A postmodern ethos says authority doesn't matter. A postmodern ethos is largely secular. But when you read these theologians, you find theologians who had a way of appreciating the authority of the leaders. You find theologians who took the Trinity seriously, who were God-centered. Hey, maybe by reading these theologians, the church has an antidote for the secularism and breakdown of authority that characterize our modern day. That's why these theologians matter for the church today. Thank you.